Hello again, all you voiceover stars! It's Bailey Varnes, and I hope you are getting yourself set up well for some major Fiverr voiceover success. All right, so now we're going to talk about the Fiverr Dashboard. This is going to be the main hub and main page that you come to when you are logged in. And I want to go through all the pieces with you because making sure that you're staying on top of all the requirements that Fiverr has in place is one of the best ways that you can set yourself up to be seen by as many people as possible so you can get the most jobs. So I wanted to touch on something just in case it hasn't been really clear. In the past, traditionally, because of the way that advertising budgets work, only really big corporations were able to afford ads since they only appeared on places like television and radio and major periodicals. So the old way of casting, what would happen is a giant corporation would reach out to a casting director, and the casting director would put out notices to voiceover talent agencies for whatever it was that they were looking for. And then they would get a whole lot of submissions. The casting director would then filter through those submissions, and then they would present to the client what they consider the best of the submissions that they got. Now, this is still very much what's still going on, what's happening with giant companies and giant corporations. They still use casting directors. They still use agencies. They use all of the big old school stuff for major ad campaigns. But now that the internet has allowed for so many more opportunities for a lot of different people at a lot of different prices, Fiverr has taken advantage of that, and so more people can come in and participate. So what I'm getting at is that on Fiverr, the casting director has been replaced with an algorithm. So I just want that to become really clear. Instead of being filtered and chosen by a casting director, Fiverr's algorithm is deciding who they consider would be the best for people to see. Now, in some ways, that's good, because people can play favorites. You could be unfairly judged based on your agency. You could be actually the best person for the role, but there can be a preconceived notion for whatever reason that doesn't get you in front of the big players. But there can be a problem with an algorithm too, because you may have the best voice for something, but the algorithm may just be rewarding whoever is getting the most hits on their gig for whatever reason. It could be because they have a really pretty picture, and a lot of people are clicking on that and choosing them for that weird reason. There are so many random factors, none of which have to do with your voice. So what I wanted to bring, I wanted to bring that to your attention because a lot of people still have a mindset of like, how do I impress a casting director? There's actually no tangible person to impress anymore in this situation, You're up against an algorithm, and it only understands certain technical markers. It understands nothing about artistry. It understands nothing about voice quality. It just knows, are people clicking you? Are you booking? Do you respond to messages quickly? Are you hitting certain milestones that we can adjudicate? And so that's what you need to focus on. And we're going to address a lot of that right now. We already went through your profile to make sure it was optimized for you. And then we went through the gigs to make sure that everything there was optimized. Your keywords were there, all the details filled out so that you could have the best chance of being found in the search by the most people. And now the dashboard, while it's mostly information for you to see how you're doing and what your daily tasks are, you need to understand what you need to be on top of and if you need to tweak anything, because this is one of the last pieces of the puzzle to make sure that Fiverr can appreciate and reward you and give you ideal placement on the site so that you can make a lot of money. So let's get into it now. So this is your dashboard. This is the beautiful screen that's going to greet you and show you what you have going on for your workday. So the first thing I want to make clear about the dashboard is that how it looks changes all the time. I have a funny feeling that when you're watching this video, they might have completely revamped it and everything's in a completely different place. But the important stuff is still there somewhere. It's just maybe moved around or parted on the side now or whatever you want to call it. But they love to change the look of their platform constantly. So I apologize if this looks very different from what you see when you log in, but I can't keep up with them. It's impossible. But just know that everything that I'm going to describe should be there someplace, and you should be able to find it. So let's go into what we have on here. Basically, what we have are tabs for whatever you need to do. There is a My Business area where you can go and look at orders, your gigs, check your earnings, things like that. Then there's a growth and marketing section. This is where you can do some things to help market your business to make more money. Now, all of these options may not be available to you right away. Some of them appear when you reach different levels, but this is where you could find them. And then we have the analytics section, which shows you how you're doing. This is where you can check if what you're doing is working and maybe tweak some things at any point to make sure you're getting the most out of your entire profile. And then a few other things that we have on here is your notifications area, your messages are up here, if help if you need it. And then this fabulous little picture of you and your little icon. And you can see that I have a little green dot on mine, which indicates that I'm currently online and will appear in the online search area. If your dot is gray, then it means that you aren't currently showing up in the online search area, and you may want to refresh your page so that it turns green and you're showing up there again. So if you click your lovely picture, this is where you can get to things like your profile and your billing and other stuff like that. And something I would like to point out is this little button here. If you ever need to switch to being a buyer to buy something on Fiverr, this is where you would do it, at this button here. And when you see that the button says switch to buying, it also makes it clear that you are working as a seller. So if you see that, know you're okay. I'm in business mode right now, so that's there if you ever need it. So the last thing up here that I'd like to point out is this number right here. So this number is the amount of income that you've actually netted. This is the money that at this point I could take out and put into my bank account today. This is mine to keep. So that's what this number is right here. Now, there are a lot of other income numbers on the dashboard, and I'm going to explain them as we get to them, but this is my cold, hard cash that I have right now. Now, it's kind of low right now because we're just a few days into September, and I recently took out a bunch of it and deposited it. So this is the amount that is cleared that I can take out whenever I want. It typically takes 14 days from the time your order gets accepted by a client to when the funds clear and are available to you here. Now, when you're a top-rated seller, it only takes 7 days for the funds to clear, but get used to waiting 14 days for your money to become available to you and show up here. So that's the wonderful navigation bar area, I guess you would call it, of your dashboard. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move us over here to the left-hand side of the page to what I call the metrics area to keep track of some important information. So the first thing I'm going to show you over here is you can see I have earned this level badge here for my work. Now, if you can see it, it's very small. It says top rated. So remember from the Fiverr levels that we discussed, I have earned my top rated seller status, which is hard to do as a voice actor. But I hit all the milestones, and as long as everything in this metrics area stays good, I'll keep that status. So over here, you see that I have an average of a 5-star rating. I think it used to have a star next to the number. It doesn't now for some reason. It's just like 5, which is so funny. But yeah, that means that I'm top rated partially because I have an average of a 5-star rating for my customers over the course of a 60-day period. So if one customer just hated me for some reason and gave me a 1, and that averaged and my rating dropped a little bit, it's okay. It can drop a little bit. I think it can drop to about a 4.7 without affecting you and making you drop down to a level 2 seller. But if most of my reviews are good, it's not going to be a problem. And after 60 days, that bad review doesn't get counted into the average anymore. So that's good news. So if you do have something that just goes horribly awry, it doesn't count after 60 days and you get a clean slate. Hopefully you don't have a bunch more. That would be a big problem. But yeah, I just wanted you to know how that works. And at this point, I'm at a 5. So the next thing we have down here is the inbox response rate. So if I hover over it, I think it says that I've answered at least 90% of your inbox messages over 60 days to maintain your level or qualify for the next one. So in a nutshell, what that's saying is that I have answered at least 90% of the messages down here in this area, all these messages down here that have come in. Now, why on earth you wouldn't answer 100% of messages that you get is beyond me, because that's just an easy number to be able to hit. Even if you get some spam, sometimes spam does come in, especially when you're new. A lot more spam happens at that point. But even if that happens, please respond, even if you just type the word spam to them, because just responding at all is super important. So yeah, don't mess that up, because you need to keep that rating high. Because again, if you don't answer at least 90%, as they say, this gets dinged and you get dropped down a level and you don't get all the benefits that you had of the level before. So this inbox response rate goes in perfect correlation with your inbox response time. So this is your average response time to inbox messages from new people in the last 60 days. So it's basically just the first time you answer a message from anybody. After that, the time isn't checked, really. It's just the initial response. And unfortunately, I don't have any right now. But sometimes you'll see a little clock symbol next to the person's name who sent you a message, showing that, you're on the clock, we're timing how quickly you respond to this message. And it's just why do you put so much pressure on me? But as you can see, my inbox response rate time right now is 1 hour. Well, 1 hours, I can say, but they mean 1 hour. Now, the funny thing is, I don't always have it at 1 hour. It only goes in increments of hours. There's no 30-second response time that you can get. It's either 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, etc. Now, the reason I often have 2 hours is that sometimes I get a lot of foreign buyers. A lot of foreign potential clients will send me a message in the middle of the night, which is a perfectly reasonable time for them to contact me in their time zone, but then I may not see the message for 8 hours. So that gets factored into my response time. So to counter that, when I get a message during the day, I try to respond to those within a minute or two so that my average is 1 minute versus 8 hours. And so with everything added up, sometimes it averages to 1 hour response time, sometimes it averages to 2. I've never gone all the way to 3. I think that would be bad. But they consider 1 or 2 to be a really good response time. So make sure when you get a message and you're awake that you're responding as quickly as you can. I'm not saying put pressure on yourself. Don't wake up in the middle of the night and answer messages. You don't need to be a slave to the algorithm. You're going to be just fine. Like I said, as long as it's during the day and you see notifications coming in that you have a message, please respond to those right away. Even if you just say, hey, I'm in the middle of something, I'll check this out later. Just respond, because that will help your average response time. Stay in a good place without having to worry about what happens in the night, because you need your sleep and you will be just fine. Okay, so the next metric item is the order response rate. So this metric, if we hover over it, shows this is how often you answered order messages and revision requests within 24 hours in the last 60 days. So basically, if somebody sends you a message about an order, or if you had an order that has to be revised, be sure to reply to those things within 24 hours. Again, why you wouldn't reply as quickly as possible is beyond me. That's just good customer service. But in order to keep your response rate a tight 100, you're going to make sure that you reply to everything that you get within 24 hours. Not really a hard one to hit. All right, so we have our percentage of delivered on time. And look at that, 100%. So the expectation is delivered at least 90% of your orders on time for 60 days to maintain your level of quality, to maintain your level to qualify for the next one. So again, everything is checked on a 60-day cycle so that if you do make a mistake, there is redemption. Thank goodness. Now, I'm pretty proud of this because I have never delivered on an order late. But when we do walk through the orders, you're going to see some indications later that maybe sometimes it looks like I did turn in something late, but the truth is I didn't. There's just a funny little... It's not really a flaw, but their algorithm is a little lazy at one point. We'll get to that. But the point is, do make sure you're delivering on time and you are going to be fabulous. So the last thing we have in this little section is the order completion rate. Now, I do definitely want to talk about this because how they explained it to you is, you can see, is complete at least 90% of your orders for 60 days to maintain your level or qualify for the next one. Okay? But here's the thing. This is saying you cannot cancel an order. If you cancel an order, your completion rate is going to drop, and if it drops below 90%, then you could lose your level status or not qualify for the next level status. And that can be a real problem because if you don't have that many orders going on at any given time, it can drop to 90% pretty quickly. And then if that happens again, you could be in some real trouble. So I've never actually canceled an order. I've had some terrible orders, but I've just done them. I've done them to the best of my ability to keep my order completion rate high and make sure it's over 90%. Now, here's something I need you guys to understand. Sometimes a buyer will send an order to you, but they'll make a mistake. And they'll cancel the order and be like, oh, I have to cancel it. Like, I had somebody who accidentally sent me the same order twice at one point, so he definitely needed to cancel one of them. That's only fair. But because I had to agree to the cancellation, it dinged me on my order completion rate. And so I was down, I think it took me to like 96% at that point. And I was like, oh, geez. Then it happened to me again that week. So I was getting close to that 90%. So that seemed really unfair because the cancellation really wasn't my fault at all. So what I found out is that if it is their fault, if it's the buyer's fault and they do legitimately need to cancel, but you didn't make the mistake, what you can do before you accept the cancellation is just contact customer service and say, hey, I have to mutually accept this cancellation because the buyer messed up, not me. And they'll be like, okay, we understand. And that way you can stay at 100%. It's not going to ding you because if you prove it really wasn't your fault, you didn't want to cancel, you just had to because of their mistake, they will keep you at 100%. So something I had to learn along the way. But I know now, and I'm glad I know it because it's keeping my completion rate at that 100, which is what you want to do. So that's the metrics area in a nutshell. I hope that was not just clear as mud for you. But what we have right underneath it, let's take a look here, this is my earned income in September. Now, as I said, it's just the beginning of September here, so there's, not much income yet. So far, I've earned $704 on the platform this month. And so this is sort of an interesting number because it's the money that has cleared during the month of September and the money that's still pending clearance. That 14 days, or 7 days for me, for those of you who are paying attention to the fact that I'm a top-rated seller. So you see that it's a higher number than the $631, which I showed is my actual cleared take-home number, because these include all the orders that have been accepted by the buyers. So that's what this particular number means. And as I mentioned, this is the inbox area where you can easily find your messages. You could also expand that here, or also as well as up here. You can see it more clearly sometimes with that icon if you need to. So that's the left-hand side of the dashboard. Woohoo! So now let's move to the big, meaty center section. Ooh. So this is where your major orders are going to be displayed in beautiful Technicolor here. So as you can see, I have 7 active orders right now. There are 3 that I'm still working on, and I have 4 that I've actually turned in, but I'm still waiting for the buyers to accept them. So you're able to see here, how much they paid for the order, which ones are still due. You can see the countdown timer on those. And over here, I want to explain what some of these statuses mean. So in progress, like I was saying, these are the ones that I'm still working on that I haven't turned in yet. When it says delivered, that means I've turned it in, but they haven't accepted it yet. It'll stay as delivered status for 3 days from the time you turn it in, unless the buyer accepts it before that. If not, then after 3 days, it's considered automatically accepted. And that's when your money becomes ready to be cleared. There are 2 other statuses you might see here, and one is incomplete. That's when somebody just places an order, but they haven't sent the script or the directions or anything yet. Once they send all of that, it will turn to being in progress at that point. And then the other status you might see is in revision. That's as if you delivered it, but they still think something's missing or something needs to be fixed or, for whatever reason, the order's not quite done. Then they will send it back and it'll appear up here with the in progress ones, up here. But usually on top, and it's in a red color that clearly says in revision, making it very clear that it's a priority and still needs to be worked on. Now, sometimes I was mentioning that things can seem like they're late when they actually aren't. Here's where that happens. In this, due in section, it might say that it's late somehow in red. And that can be really scary when you first see it. But it doesn't mean it's late. It just means that the countdown clock from the original order has run out. But as long as it was in on time originally, you have nothing to worry about. So the last thing I kind of skipped over was with this active orders here, this other amount of money listed. And that is how much I will gross on these 7 active orders that I have right now. Now, it's not actually what I'm going to net once Fiverr takes its 20% cut, but they're just teasing you with the amount you could potentially make before they're going to take their share. But that's what this number actually means right here. So the amount still in progress, the amount that will be netted once all the pending orders are cleared, and then the final amount that has cleared. And there you have it. Yeah, I think that should do it for what you need to know about the dashboard. If it's moved around again, I apologize, but hopefully you get the idea. So there's a lot of information there to keep you organized and make sure that you're following the rules to get good search placement and move up to that next top seller level. So in our next video, I'm going to walk you through a custom order from beginning to end so you can see exactly how it works so that you can easily repeat the process and be one of Fiverr's chosen golden children. And I know this was a ton of information, but there's actually a lot more to Fiverr's algorithm than the obvious. And I cover it in my full course at voiceworkacademy.com. There's a lot that I can say that I just know, but I can't say it on YouTube. So check it out when you're ready, and I will see you in the next one.